Hey, can you get Oreos or can you call him so he can stop barking? What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining me again on another episode of the Canoe Creative Spotlight, where we interview the amazing creatives from around the world and bring them straight to you. As always, I'm your boy Chris, your host and person bringing these amazing people straight to you. And today we are talking to my boy Alberto, a fellow Bloomfield College alumni. He is a mixing and mastering engineer with credits spanning across major acts in music, film, and television. He has graced us with his presence today, and we are super grateful. Alberto, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for inviting me.
Of course, man. Of course. I am so grateful to have you here today on the show. A lot of great things that we could talk about. But before I do anything, I always like to give my audience a little bit more of an in-depth view of the person we're talking to. So please let our audience know who you are, where you're from, and what you do.
Cool. Well, I'm from Mexico City. I live in Austin, Texas now, but I'm a mixing and mastering engineer. I do all sorts of stuff from rock, TV shows, movies, soundtracks. Yeah. You name it.
Yeah, man. You've been really, grinding really hard for the last couple of years, man. It's been such a pleasure to watch you grow and watch your platform grow. Alberto Mixes is thriving, and I've seen the great things you have done from Machine Shop and all the way through to Texas, where you are now. We're speaking to you in your home studio right now, where you do most of your work, right?
Yeah, basically, whenever I moved here, I bought a house, and I was able to turn the second story of the house into a studio. So it was, it's like a whole living room area. I have another room full with cabs, and there's mics over there for guitar and bass tracking mostly. And
nice. Yeah. Is it completely put together at this point? Are you still working on it? Like, how far along is it?
It is pretty put together right now. It definitely took a couple of years to figure out the space. There was so much that I had to get involved in. I went through a couple of acousticians. I have one friend that was helping me out, Mark Genfen, who is an incredible acoustician, but unfortunately he passed away in the middle of it. And I was just going through some friends, and eventually I ended up getting the guys from Geek Acoustics to measure everything, give me some good recommendations. The bass traps that I got on the corner are from them, but everything else I built myself basically.
Nice. Yeah, I had to kind of educate myself on just certain ways to kind of do a basic room treatment here. So, I kind of did the filter sweeping and white noise and kind of saw where some of the bass buildup was when I was doing mine. But I know I could tell just from looking, yours is way more in depth than mine. So I can imagine what that room sounds like.
Man, it's insane the amount of insulation that's in here.
Yeah.
Even if I show you, I can tell you, I can show you my. Like that.
Oh yeah. I have one over me as well, but much smaller.
That is 10 inches deep.
Holy cow! Are you serious?
Yeah, there's so much in here. It's ridiculous, but it sounds incredible though.
I'm sure. How big is the room? What's the square footage?
So I know I have about 24 feet going back by maybe 15 or 16. But it's where I kind of cut it in half. Here, let me just spin you around. So I cut it in half with these panels. I have some tubes. So I have about half a room back there, but this is where, making this back wall and making that diffuser definitely help and tied everything up. Especially because I've been mastering more. I like the room to be very dead so I can really see what's happening. So yeah, that definitely made a huge difference. And it's kind of cool too because it separates. I have a little couch and hangout area in that corner, so it made it where if you want to just have a minute, sit back there, I can move these panels are on wheels, so I can open them up and we can listen to music from back there. We're just jamming, and when it's time to get serious, I can just kind of close it back up and make it super tight again.
For sure. I mean, dude, having a space like that in your home, it's a blessing and a curse sometimes, because I used to find that when I used to intern and work in studios, it was kind of a benefit that I can kind of turn it off when I needed to. And now that I have it in my house, it sometimes feels like it's always with me, which is a good thing. But it my wife will just be like, well, we chilling and I'll get some inspiration. I'll run downstairs and 10 minutes turns into 3 hours.
Man, I mean, it is a double-edged sword because that happens, but also I've been getting recalls. Like sometimes, projects get behind and stuff, and they're like, "Oh, we needed this yesterday." And there's been times where I get recalls at like 1 a.m, and I like literally jump out of bed and run up here,
In your
do what I have
pajamas.
to do, send it, and I'm like, dude, if I had to go to the studio to do this, it'd be a nightmare.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's so dope that you've created a space that's high quality. Because I mean, I'm
Right.
sure your room is as comparable to any other mastering suite that's out there right now.
Yeah, I mean, everybody that I brought here, like, definitely likes how it is. And I think my work is translating way better than any time like outside of here. So I'm stoked.
Nah, man, I'm sure. Yeah, dude. I mean, obviously you've been doing some great work. Obviously I met you back in Bloomfield, as I said before, and straight metalhead. We kind of jammed for a little bit and kind of related on that note. And both were part of the music tech program there at CAT. And I always knew you were going to do great things because you were always kind of a step above, everybody else, and just in the sense of your knowledge and just your general interest. Like you kind of seemed like you had experience beforehand. How did you kind of get started in the game? Like, what was your initial introduction?
When I was younger, I kind of wanted to just play guitar and be either a touring musician or a session musician. And at one point, my dad was like trying to hook me up with his friend that does production events.
Mm-hmm.
He was just kind of steering me into like, you got to go to college and you got to maybe if you're interested in that, look at some of these things. Mm-hmm. And his friend was like, there's a studio across the street where I send my stuff. I can just take you there so you can kind of see what they do. Mm-hmm. And that studio was really cool. It was more about post-production, and the engineers there were doing a little bit of their own projects. Sure. So it was really neat because they kind of taught me a little bit, how to use a DAW. And I think they were using N.E.W.S back then.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Yeah. But it was like very simple projects for me, like start putting stuff together. I really like the whole using computers and doing music at the same time. Like that, there was like a whole tech and creative thing going on that really like called me at that point. Mm-hmm. I was like, okay, this is awesome. I can definitely get behind this. And I started looking into music tech and seeing what I could do on that side. And I kind of felt like, if I was gonna go study guitar or music in general, I was gonna go more towards jazz. Like all the programs I saw were kind of aimed towards that. Mm-hmm. And I was not interested in that. Like you said, I was a metalhead. Like I was like this, I can learn this by myself. I've already been playing for so long. Like sure. I would rather learn the production side of it. Absolutely. So I went to college, and when I was in college, that's when I started interning at Machine Shop, and Producer Machine and Will Putney really like took me under the wing and showed me the ropes of the game. And at that point, the studio was getting some incredible bands, so I was able to learn on amazing artists. Mm-hmm. So that's always fun.
Yeah, man. I mean, you've worked with some really big acts there, man. And I remember the Machine Shop just because it was so close to Bloomfield in Belleville. Right. And that place recently, they closed down recently, right? They moved.
Right, they moved it. They got flooded. I mean, it was an old building. It was always filled.
It was, but that was kind of the lore of it. It was kind of just a little. It was the rundownness almost that was just so like it really introduced the idea of real metal, haggard sounds, and just raw recordings. I loved it
for sure.
Yeah, man. I think that just that introduction has kind of just propelled you. And so your move to Texas, was it inspired for your end goal of kind of building your own space and buying a house, or was it kind of just something you said, let's try a new thing?
Not so much. So at that point, I was kind of working more on their machine, and Machine wanted to move to Austin. So we talked about moving down here and building a barn studio. And I talked with Will, and I was like, what, I kind of want something different. I want to change sceneries. I hated the New Jersey winters.
Yeah, dude. I'm in it right now, so yeah, I hear you.
So I was like, whatever, let's go to Austin and give it a shot, and worst case scenario, I'll just be back. So I moved out here, and we ended up building the second Machine Shop, which was, or I guess it's the third one, it's in Dripping Springs. It's this big open barn. We did a couple records there. And around 2015, I kind of wanted to do my own thing. And I was also like, I was pretty burnt out on tracking bands. I feel like I wasn't getting a lot of my own clients, and it was hard to get them over there. So I was a little frustrated, and I was just like, I need something different. I want to, learn other aspects of the industry. Like, I need to change what I'm doing. So at that point, I joined a record label that a friend of mine was like opening up. And so we kind of built that from the ground up. And I was doing a couple of records with them at the time, but it was very cool because it opened me to other places. So I got to do a record, like Bright and Electric, and like it was right after what's it called? I'm blanking, but it's this band that does drums and bass and sound incredible.
Okay.
Royal Blood. So
yeah, I'm a big fan actually.
Right. So we did a record like in their studio, like a couple months after that record blew up. So, and I had one of their engineers. I was like, oh, this is awesome. I can pick brains of these people. And I kind of fell in love with that aspect again.
Sure.
I always like mixing more. So at that point I was like, I'm definitely going to start my own little mix room, and all the records I was mixing, people wanted me to master them. There was no budget for mastering.
Right.
So I kind of had to get good at that too. And Will introduced me to that previously. So I kind of just started, getting those skills up. And somehow that ended up clicking with a lot of people where they will just send me stuff like, hey, can you master this stuff? Can you master that? And, I just went for it. And that opened a lot of doors.
For sure, man. Yeah, man. You're doing television now. You're doing, movies. You just did that movie with Tom Holland, and it's incredible to see the things you're doing now, man. You really touched on one important thing that I really wanted to speak to you specifically about, which is mastering in general. Because I've experienced that myself where, especially in production, especially when you're mixing, a budget is usually established for so many other aspects of the process, for mixing, for recording, for even post work, as far as like promotion, like, graphic design and videos. But it's almost like they kind of completely disregard mastering as a whole phase. And it's such an important, crucial, process of the songwriting and development process. So just for the people who are maybe unintroduced to the process, what is mastering and why is it so important in, the process of making music?
Cool. So mastering kind of started as the guys that were transferring audio, cutting the vinyl and getting from tape to vinyl or vice versa sometimes. And their job kind of transitioned a little bit into figuring out that the end product was good, whatever format that they were going to put out. They're the guys that are like, oh, you know what, this recording maybe doesn't sound as good, or maybe needs some EQ, maybe needs a little bit of compression. And they start adding little things. And until it became an art, right? At this point, a mastering engineer kind of is the quality control of what the mixing guy did. I got to make sure that translates everywhere. And I got to make sure, it's loud enough for the genre. It's good enough where if I play it on my iPhone and I play it on a car stereo or, on a super, IMAX theater, like it's going to sound great anywhere. It's not going to be, Boom Central or whatever. I feel like right now, mastering is more important than ever because people are making records in their bedrooms. And they're making it in studios that are very small and they don't have great monitoring. A lot of people don't invest, as much as you need to have a room that's very revealing. So you definitely need somebody that has the ears and like has the training on how to make sure that you can fix those problems before the songs come out and the records come out, and also I feel like a mastering engineer can be your best friend as a mixer because the people that I work with, they trust me with my previous experience. So sometimes they'll send me a mix and instead of waiting for me to fix it, I can just be like, hey, try this trick, or maybe your snare needs to be louder, or maybe see how this is coming up in the master and how it's choking, like try this and see if that helps you. And those little things, that little back and forward, always makes the songs better.
Yeah, I remember back in the day actually sending you a couple of my mixes, getting some tips about, especially like distorted guitar and just rock production in general. And you were always very, very gracious about all the little tips and just pointing me in the right directions. But yeah, man, I mean, mastering is such a crucial process. I recorded an album, a little EP with my band 3 years ago now, and we worked with this mastering studio called Punching Dolphins out of LA, and they were really dope. And it was crazy because especially since I mixed it as a mixer, you take it as far as you think you can get it, and with leaving the headroom and just kind of trying to match everything across the EQ spectrum and give a space for everything. But then when you send it out to these mastering engineers and you send you back, you realize, man, like my mix was like, there was so much missing, and they bring so much life into it. And, they use saturation and compression and all these different tools to really enhance it. So you really appreciate, like you said, their ear and their expertise, because it's not like they're dealing with your whole track like a mastering engineer. You're really taking the final product and working with what you have.
Right.
What gear are you using right now to use it? Like what is your typical process of mastering, and like how do you kind of get from A to B?
It depends on how the track comes in. Like it's always source dependent, but basically I think of it in two ways. I think of it as a mix bus and then a mastering bus, right? My mastering bus is mostly in the box. With my mastering chain, I'm trying to just get depth, I'm trying to get wide, and I'm trying to get loud, but the idea is to do all that transparent. I'm only enhancing what you're doing, but I don't want any color. I don't want anything to be like sticking out. Right. On the mix bus side, I have an EQ and compressor. A lot of times I will just go, so I have a N.E.W.S Pro EQ 3D, which is, most people know it now as the MAG EQs.
Okay.
So this was like the original one, right? I have an SSL compressor that Dan Korneff built for me. That's killer.
Nice.
So I will go through that. Sometimes I can throw other plugins. I like the Shadow Hills mastering compressor for color.
Okay.
And then, at that point, I just go to my mastering chain where I have like an MSEQ. Sometimes I'll have another Baxandal EQ. I'll have multiband limiters, and then I have just a brick wall limiter just to bring it to level.
That's awesome, man. Wow. Like, so is the process of mastering for music and mastering for film and television, is it gravely different? Are you listening for different things? Are you trying to get a different type of feel from it?
It is a little bit different. I mean, I always deal with music because I'm literally just working on the soundtrack. So they give me the music, I just give it back to them, and I'm like, do whatever you want with it, I treat it as like it's coming out on a CD, or it's going to be out on, stream. It's going to be streamed or whatever they're doing. The way that it's different, it's because I never know what I'm going to get.
Yeah.
I usually
surprise every time.
Like here's a project, there's a new production coming in and this is the title. And I'm like, cool. Sometimes he'll be jazz. Sometimes he'll be, instrumental soundtracks. I've got hip hop. I've got rock. It's definitely all across the board.
Sure.
So, there's been shows that come in where there's like no headroom and everything's like already slammed and,
yeah,
right, like, well, this is right, like this is what I got to work with, and there's others where like the Run soundtrack was incredible because it had so much headroom, and it's a horror movie. So you can squash that. I want to make sure that whenever there's an impact, it scares you. Like that's what it's meant to do.
Yeah.
So it's a different mentality, and it's a different approach to how you go about it.
Yeah, man. That's so wild, dude. I mean, it's really a cool thing to just see kind of how you've like evolved over time. Like, social media has really allowed for that, for us to stay in contact and for me to kind of just see.
Right.
I remember seeing you when you were building the studio and you were kind of just piece by piece putting it together and putting up, and just to see it now, it's so awesome, man. I'm so happy for you.
Thanks,
I'm really
man.
glad it's all working out.
It's definitely been it's been a trip building this place, and you always end up needing more insulation than you think, There's any advice, is like, don't cheap out. That's the one thing that's gonna make your place look like sound good.
Oh man, bro, those are words for the wise. Don't cheap out. I've told many friends, and the thing is, especially in production now and mixing, like you said, we are living in a golden era of technology and music, the meeting ground of both, because we are able to do this now. We are able to build it ourselves. You know, the gear has become more attainable for us. We are able to actually afford it and purchase it ourselves and kind of look at a room and say, what can I do with it? And I think that is a big part of the reason why I have pursued what I'm doing with Canoe a lot more, because spaces like this exist and a lot more people have the ability to be more independent in their creation, you know?
For sure.
Yeah, bro. So as far as just like what you're doing right now and, you know, working on film, or is there anything else? Obviously you've, you know, gone across the gamut of like music production and everything. Is there anything that you still are interested in trying, or anything that you're trying to pursue this year?
Yeah, I kind of want to dip my feet more in recording bands again. I've done a couple records. I work with the Crowbar guys, and that was awesome. I mean, they've always been one of my favorite bands to work with. They're some of my best friends, so that's always inspiring.
Of course.
But yeah, I mean, I love to do more of that. I'm always down to, you know, keep mastering different genres.
Sure.
I haven't done anything. I guess I haven't done anything in the classical world. It's only been like instrumental.
I see what you're saying.
Art, you know, like more contemporary.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, I'm open to anything, man.
Absolutely, man. I mean, you got the space for it. You've built it, and they will come. You know what I mean? So you definitely have all the resources needed to do it.
I don't know, man. I feel like that's such a big lie.
Yeah, you think so? Why?
Absolutely. So? Because you can spend, and I've seen it happen, you can spend so much money, and there's so many, you know, people that have incredible amount of money and like build these flashy expensive places, and they don't have quality work or people coming to them.
Man, that's a good point.
It's all about generating your own clients and like, you know, working your ass off, getting good at it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is a good point. That is a good point, because I've kind of really have been investing, especially now with what I'm doing. I've been investing into just really trying to learn and appreciate the different type of setups that people are having. I have a good friend of mine named Gio the Rican. He built a studio in the Bronx called Blue Note Studios. It's, you know, true hip hop production type of studio, made a booth and everything, but it has an energy and it has a vibe, and they get clients. You know what I mean? Right. And you have other places where people invest either too much money or not enough money into their stuff, but then they won't have the chops to even use the gear that they're investing into.
Right.
You know, so, but that's not to discourage anyone from doing it. It's just more of an inspiration to try to continue to learn the craft, perfect your skill, you know, sharpen that blade, you know?
I mean, that's it. Like, as much as you want to invest money on things, like invest time in learning, you know, skills. Because the skills, it doesn't matter if you're recording in a tiny bedroom. I mean, look where Phineas did the Billie Eilish records.
I use that example all the time.
That kid is pure talent.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah, I use that example all the time. And it is the reason it's so crazy you said that, because I literally was talking about that the other day when a friend of mine who found out what I was doing was just like, oh, well, why do you think that's going to work? And I was like, dude, Phineas produced Billie Eilish's Grammy award-winning record from their parents' bedroom. Like it's not impossible now. And I think people need to break out of that mentality. And I think that it's the time to do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. So as far as just like I said, you're trying to do more bands and everything like that. There's one question that I have for you, and it's a personal question for me, because I have been eluded by the metal tone, and it has eluded me through amps and different configurations and everything, and I have gotten better at it over the years. But what is your recipe for quality metal tone?
Good hands.
Good hands. Thank you. Exactly. Yes.
I mean, the best guitar players I've seen, like going back to Crowbar, you know, Bishop, that dude has a magic touch. I can literally switch amps on him. Like, I put him through a 5150 and I put him through, you know, a Fender Princeton or a Bassman or a JCM 2000, whatever. Mm-hmm. He will change his playing to make that amp sound good.
Isn't that crazy?
Same with whatever guitar. We can do humbuckers, we can do, you know, active pickups, we can go to single coils, like
anything.
The way that he hits the strings, the way, you know, he'll play with the guitar and like he'll find where it sounds good and instinctively make it sound good. Doesn't
Yes.
matter if it's, whatever shitty pedal we're going through, or if it's an incredible tone.
It's a crazy thing, bro. I'm so glad you said that, because I agree 100%, because I have used the same amp, same tone, same chain, everything on different people, and they'll just come in just my regular tone, whatever I built, and it's a different sound you get depending on the person. It's so wild how that works.
Yeah. I mean, we can literally set up, whatever amp you want right here, like you and I play, and it'll sound different.
100%. Yeah, man. I'm so glad you said that. And in that is a very poetic beauty of making music, is the fact that you can have all the gear, you can have everything set up, you could watch every YouTube video on how someone else did it. Your experience is unique to you and your setup and your environment. So I appreciate that perspective, for real.
For sure.
Yeah, man. Well, dude, as I said before, I am such an admirer of the work you've been doing, and I wish you nothing but the best with all your success. Obviously, we always stay in contact. A lot of great things I'm trying to do. Texas is on my route. One of the places I hope to come and visit once CNEW starts rolling out. So I will be hitting you up.
Awesome, for sure. Coming over.
Absolutely, bro. I can't wait to see that room. Alberto, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you for coming on my show, and I really hope that our audience had some great insight from it.
Thank you, man. Have a good one.
Of course. So that's Alberto, guys, and this is our episode of the CNEW Creative Spotlight. Make sure you check him out on all the links we provided down below. Make sure you follow CNEW on Instagram and Twitter at CreativesNearU, and keep in mind that we are coming for you. We have a lot of great things coming, a lot of great news and sweepstakes and prizes and events. A lot of great things coming, so you do not want to miss out. As always, I'm your boy Chris. Make sure you always connect, collab, and create.